So, I bought this house in the village, dreaming of a peaceful and quiet life. The realtor who conducted the inspection mentioned some incident, but I didn't pay attention to it. I was only interested in a fresh start. After moving in, I decided to take a walk to explore the new area. The village looked very peaceful and cozy. I walked through narrow streets, admiring the wooden houses with pleasant gardens. But when I returned home, my impressions changed and the door opened as if by itself, and I entered the house. Things were scattered all over. Books lying on the floor, chairs overturned, and one of the plates was smashed to pieces. It caused me an undefined fear, but I decided not to pay attention to it. As I began to clean up, I heard a strange whisper. Checking every room, I found no one. It was eerie, but I dismissed those thoughts. However, the scariest part was finding my photo on the table, a photo I didn't even have with me. The next day, I met the local residents. I tried to talk to the realtor about what had happened, but he just smiled and waved it off, saying it was just folklore. The people in the village also didn't want to talk about the incident. They just smiled and avoided the conversation. This raised some concern for me. I decided to ask a neighbor if they could tell me more about the history of this house. Good day. Could you tell me a bit more about the history of this house? I asked the neighbor. He looked at me surprised and with horror in his eyes began to respond.
There was a family living there, all fine with each other. But one evening, neighbor came with a stone face. And after a few hours, I heard cries for mercy. I immediately called the police, but by the time they arrived, he had already killed everyone and on the backyard took his own life.
After returning home, my thoughts were still entangled in the affairs of this house, knocking out all unresolved issues from my mind. I went to bed, hoping that morning would bring clarity. But my hopes for a peaceful sleep were in vain. In the middle of the night, I woke up to a strange voice echoing throughout the house. It was a whisper, dreadful and eerie, sounding as if from the depths of darkness. I sat in bed, listening to every sound that pierced the silence. And then a true symphony of horror began. The doors started creaking. Furniture was moving on the floor and the sounds of the lamp, flickering on and off, added to the chaos. My heart was beating in tune with this dreadful symphony, and anxious sweat soaked my body. Taking a few deep breaths, trying to calm my nerves, I got up from bed. Every step I took in the darkness seemed like an inevitable path in the world of the unknown. I felt fear slowly pouring out of every crevice in the house, reflecting my own anxieties. Trying to find even a single rational explanation for this horrific theater, I searched for the source of these sounds and sensations. But every door, every window, every corner seemed closed to me, refusing to open before my eyes. And then as I stood in this hellish spectacle of loneliness and fear, I saw her. A 20-year-old girl with a bloody face and eyes as red as blood, holding knives in her hands, motionless and mysterious, stood at the opposite end of the room, watching me. Her eyes, cold and merciless, pierced my soul, pushing me to the edge of my own existence. This encounter with the unknown led me to the decision to get rid of her at all costs. I strengthened my will, summoning all my courage and confidence, ready to face this unknown evil. The feeling of the reality of this taking on was so powerful that I trembled. Nerves were strained as I felt sharp red eyes looking at me from the shadows. She very slowly approached me and asked me,
"Why did you kill me?"
But determination and the desire to survive prevailed over fear. And I replied, "Who are you?" But when the last words of this creature echoed in my ears, all sense of reality disappeared, and I found myself in my own bed, thinking it was all just a dream. However, dream or reality, peace did not return to me when I got up and went to the kitchen. But determination and the desire to survive prevailed over fear. What I saw there again brought back the feeling of fear. Traces of the same creature that threatened me in my dream were clearly visible on the kitchen floor. The anxious whisper filled the room again, and I felt my heart pounding in my chest with every turn. Now I was sure that this house concealed something more deadly and ominous than I could imagine. I had already seen the darkness of this unknown entity, and now I knew that I would have to confront it, whether it was in my dream or in reality, and I would do everything possible to survive.